It was an ordinary morning at Crestwood High School, the kind of morning where the sun shone brightly yet the atmosphere inside the halls felt heavy with teenage tension and whispered gossip. Every student walked in with their backpacks, phones in hand, and minds preoccupied with rumors and cliques that defined their small universe. Among them walked Lily, a quiet, reserved girl whose presence often went unnoticed, except for the few who found amusement in making her silence their entertainment. Lily was the kind of girl who preferred sitting in the corner of the classroom, her head down, books open, and her thoughts far away from the noise of the world around her. To most, she was invisible, just another face in the crowded hallway. But to Jake, the notorious school bully, she was an easy target, a canvas for his cruelty, and someone who could never stand up for herself, or so he thought. Jake was tall, athletic, and carried himself with the arrogance of someone who believed he owned the school. His booming laughter echoed down the halls whenever he tormented someone weaker, and no teacher ever seemed able to stop him. His popularity, his sports status, and his manipulative charm made him untouchable in the eyes of authority. He thrived on fear and control, and anyone who challenged him quickly regretted it. That morning, Jake and his crew spotted Lily walking into the cafeteria, her tray trembling slightly in her hands. She wore the same pale blue sweater she always did, oversized and covering her small frame, as if she were trying to disappear beneath the fabric. She kept her eyes fixed on the floor, hoping no one would notice her. But of course, Jake noticed. With a smirk curling at the edge of his lips, he nudged his friend and whispered, "Watch this." He approached Lily, towering over her as she tried to slip past him. "Hey, little mouse," he mocked, blocking her path with his arm. "What's on the menu today? Nerd soup? Or maybe some shy girl stew?" His friend snickered behind him, enjoying the spectacle. Lily's hands shook, and her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She whispered, "Please let me through," but her voice was barely audible. Jake leaned closer, pretending he couldn't hear. "What was that? Speak up. Or don't you know how to use that voice of yours?" The cafeteria grew quieter as heads began to turn. Students loved drama, and the sight of Jake cornering Lily promised entertainment. Phones discreetly came out, recording the moment for social media. Lily felt the walls closing in, the weight of 100 eyes on her, the laughter digging into her chest like knives. For a moment, she wanted to cry, to run, to vanish. But then something inside her shifted. Perhaps it was the endless days of being ignored, the countless times she had been pushed aside, the whispers and jokes she had endured. Or perhaps it was the memory of her father's voice echoing in her mind, "Never let anyone decide your worth, Lily. You are stronger than you believe." Whatever it was, she felt a surge of strength coursing through her veins, and for the first time, she looked Jake in the eyes. "I said, let me through," she repeated, louder this time, her voice firm and steady. The sudden defiance startled him. His smirk faltered for a moment, but pride quickly overtook him. "Oh, look! The mouse thinks she's a lion," he sneered, placing a hand on her shoulder as if to shove her back. That was his mistake. The moment his hand touched her, everything changed. With a swift movement that no one saw coming, Lily twisted her body, grabbed his wrist, and pushed it away with a force that sent Jake stumbling back a step. The cafeteria gasped in unison, shock spreading like wildfire. Jake, the untouchable bully, had just been caught off guard by the shy girl he always mocked. His eyes widened, rage and disbelief swirling within them. "What the hell was that?" he spat, straightening himself. Lily didn't flinch. She stood tall, her breathing steady, her eyes locked on his with an intensity no one had ever seen from her. The room buzzed with whispers. "Did you see that? She just shoved Jake. No way. Lily?" Suddenly, Lily wasn't invisible anymore. Jake lunged forward, grabbing at her arm, determined to reassert his dominance. But Lily moved quicker, her instincts sharp, her motions precise. With another fluid motion, she sidestepped and used his momentum against him, causing him to trip over his own feet and crash into a chair. Gasps and laughter erupted from the crowd. The mighty bully had been humiliated in front of everyone, and it had taken less than 10 seconds. Jake scrambled to his feet, his face red with embarrassment, his fists clenched in fury. "You think you're tough," he shouted, but his voice cracked under the weight of the humiliation. Lily simply stared back at him, her silence more powerful than any words she could have spoken. In that silence, every student watching realized that something had shifted in their world. The girl they had overlooked, the one they thought powerless, had revealed a strength none of them could have imagined. And Jake, for the first time, looked small. The teachers rushed in, trying to defuse the situation, but the damage was already done. The videos had been captured, the whispers had turned into legends, and the shy girl had become the center of attention. That night, the clips spread across social media like wildfire. "Shy girl takes down school bully in seconds," the captions read, and Lily's name was on everyone's lips. But while others saw a viral moment, Lily felt something deeper. For the first time in her life, she realized she didn't have to hide. She didn't have to shrink herself to fit into the shadows. She could stand tall, face the world, and claim her strength. And for those watching the video later, wondering if they too could find the courage to stand up to their fears, her story became a beacon of hope. Sometimes, the quietest voices hold the greatest power. Sometimes, the ones the world overlooks are the ones who change it. The next morning at Crestwood High, the atmosphere was unlike anything the students had ever felt before. The viral video of Lily standing up to Jake had spread not only within the school but far beyond. TikTok, Instagram Reels, and even Facebook moms groups were sharing it. Comments poured in from strangers across the internet, people praising her courage, others mocking Jake's fall, and many admitting that Lily had become a symbol of standing up against bullies everywhere. For most of the students, Lily was no longer the invisible girl. She was the shy girl who had changed the narrative with one act of bravery. But not everyone was celebrating. Jake sat in the locker room that morning, his face burning with rage as his teammates teased him relentlessly. "Bro, you really got taken down by Lily," one laughed. 10 seconds and you were on the floor." Another mimicked the fall, sending waves of laughter across the room. Jake punched a locker with all his strength, silencing them. His pride had been shattered, his dominance challenged. He wasn't just angry, he was humiliated. In his mind, he had only two choices: regain control by crushing Lily publicly, or live the rest of high school as a joke. And Jake Walker would never allow himself to be a joke. While Jake plotted, Lily tried to navigate her sudden fame. Students she had never spoken to came up to her, offering high fives, compliments, or simply staring in awe. Teachers who had overlooked her suddenly spoke to her kindly, as if they had always known she was special. But Lily remained grounded. She knew attention was temporary, and with Jake still seething, trouble was inevitable. At lunch, her fears were confirmed. Jake stormed into the cafeteria, his eyes locked on her. This time, there was no smirk, no playfulness, only fury. "You think you embarrassed me," he roared, his voice booming. "You think you can humiliate me in front of the whole world and get away with it?" The room fell silent again, just like yesterday, but this time the tension was different. Lily stood up, her heart pounding but her posture firm. She didn't want to fight, but she also refused to back down. "Jake," she said calmly, "this isn't about you and me. This is about you realizing you can't treat people like they're beneath you." Jake's face twisted with rage. "Shut up," he yelled, lunging toward her. But before he could touch her again, a teacher intervened, pulling him back. "That's enough, Jake. Office, now." The cafeteria erupted with noise as Jake was dragged away, screaming threats about how this wasn't over. Students recorded every second, their phones capturing the new chapter of the drama. But what no one knew was that Lily carried a secret. That night, as she sat in her room scrolling through the flood of messages online, she thought back to the years before Crestwood High. She hadn't just randomly known how to defend herself. Her father, a retired self-defense instructor and veteran, had trained her since she was young not to fight, but to protect herself, to understand discipline, and to carry quiet strength. When he passed away 2 years ago, she promised herself she would honor his teachings. She had stayed quiet, hidden in the background, because she never wanted to hurt anyone or draw attention to herself. But life had forced her into the spotlight, and now she had to decide whether to embrace it or run from it. The next day, Jake returned to school, suspended from sports and forced into detention, but his anger hadn't cooled. He cornered Lily after class, away from the cameras, his voice low and venomous.